Now we're going to move to the first of two sessions that I'm very excited about. How many of us have been to conferences where it's just a bunch of talking heads? Everybody in the room can raise their hand. I love those because they're so exciting and I can just sit there and check my email while they're speaking. This is not that kind of a session. Leadership is not done with one person speaking and everybody else just listening. So this is going to be a very interactive session. And I'm excited for this session and also our next session. This is the session I called it Leadership for Sustainability and Change, and Dr. Cynthia Scott is here. I had the pleasure of meeting Cynthia at the Presidio Graduate School, and where she is part of their core faculty and designs and teaches in the Presidio Pro Executive Learning Programs, and she teaches the leadership courses there at the school. She was formerly the VP of Consulting at Saatchi & Saatchi. Setting strategies and implementing programs that promoted personal and organizational sustainability practices. Cynthia has over 25 years of experience as an organizational strategist, author, and executive coach. She is the founder of Change1 Global, where she designed and led numerous organizational change engagements. She brings depth and broad-scale experience to the design, development, and implementation of large-scale learning experiences. Her clients, you might have heard of a few of them, Walmart, Frito-Lay, WellPoint, Blue Shield of California, Benjamin Moore, Solutia, Charles Schwab, Kaiser Permanente, VMware, AT&T, Bank of America, the Monterey Herald, Capital One, Daughters of Charity, the Internal Revenue Service. Can't wait to hear about the change there. Estee Lauder, National Semiconductor, and IBM, and other organizations in financial, healthcare, high technology, and government sectors. She's the author of 14 books, co-author of 14 books, among them Leadership for Sustainability and Change, Take This Job and Love It, Getting Your Organization to Change, Empowerment, Rekindling Commitment, Managing Organizational Change, Empowerment, Organizational Mission and Values, and numerous articles in management and trade journals. She's a frequent keynote speaker at national conferences on the topics of leadership, marketing, mastering change, and innovation. Reports of Cynthia's works have been featured in publications such as the Wall Street Journal, Business Week, and the Stanford Business School newsletter, and Worthwhile magazine. She's also one of my favorite people. And we have designed this room to be a campsite, and where the doors can be closed. You'll notice the drinks are in the back of the room. I want you to, kind of settle into the table and the chairs and call this place your campsite. So I'm excited to welcome Cynthia to our campsite. So please put your hands together and welcome Cynthia Scott.
Thank you, John. I'm so pleased to be here. When John said I could come here, I said it's the Girl Scout's dream to be in the middle of the Boy Scout camp. As an old Girl Scout, this is a long time fantasy. So this is very good. I have to put my password in here so we can begin, and then I'm going to set up the campfire here. Alrighty, let's see. Now we're going to do the slideshow, play from start. Okay, we got it going. Okay, I got enough equipment here to, confuse myself. But table 3 is going to be the place where the campfire gets set up. Now, I got these sticks out on the trail here. I did have a lot of pine cones, but they were getting all the sap all over me, so I did not bring them. But I do the same thing in my leadership classes because the importance of the campfire as a symbol of gathering. Hang on. Oh, come on. The clicker. The clicker. Let's imagine. See, we have to use a lot of, because the next slide is just the campfire anyway. So what we're doing is we are rekindling the campfire here. And the campfire is actually a very ancient symbol in our brains. Because what happens at the campfire, and we actually spent more time out in the bushes than we did in these kinds of settings. But what the campfire does is it calls to a part of your brain that says, when you're close to it, you can see it, you're safe. Because if you wanted to stay away from the animals and kind of keep fear and darkness at bay, the campfire was a very important piece. It's working now?
This one and this one.
Oh, this one and this one. Okay, you changed clickers on me. Thank you. Okay, so we got the campfire going. And actually, we build a campfire in our class to remind ourselves that we are in a safe space for learning. So this is not the most robust campfire, but it is portable. And I actually think that portability is also important because you all have to go back and make something happen where you are. So it's not going to happen. Today is kind of your learning part, but you're going to go back and in the campfires of your organization and the scouts that you work with, you're going to be setting up your campfire. Now, the other thing that happens at a campfire is the elders tell stories. This is where the lore gets passed. This is where people talk about how did you do that? And they spread narrative. And the narrative gives people courage. And it gives people a way to find that story inside themselves. Because one of the things that I'm really convinced of is there is no right way to leader. There's lots of ways to leader. And as John said last night, what did he call them? Solutionaries. You know, we are going to have to be challenged to find our own solutions. And they're going to be different. That's the other thing. They're not the same. What you do in West Virginia is not the same that you do in Arizona. And it's not the same. My son was a Boy Scout with the Wild Chinese Boy Scouts of San Francisco. And it was a very different troop than, you know, what happened in Phoenix, Arizona. So we've got to have that kind of way of taking the spirit and the spark from the campfire and kindling it wherever you happen to be. See, what I did to myself also after last night with John, I rewrote my whole thing. So I made notes and I moved my slides around because I found it to be very evocative yesterday about the courage that John displayed in his kind of efforts to do things. And one of the things that I often say to my students or people is that, you know, what's interesting is the planet is not going to have the problem. It's the humans that are going to have the problem. The planet is going to be fine. It's going to go on. So in some ways, saving the planet and all that kind of stuff, I'm really into saving the humans and into saving our ability to have the kind of rich culture and the traditions that we've built up so that our grandchildren and the grandchildren after them can share in what we've been building. So the planet is going to be fine. It's the humans that have the challenge. So that's really been my kind of curiosity over the while. And I actually was, now it's going really fast. When you talked about the green to deep green, this journey is in your DNA. This journey is in your whole, you know, scouting is part of this. And I don't think you have to, in some ways you're just recreating your own narrative because scouting has always been about sustainability. But now it gets broader because you all started from kind of the environment and conservation, which is where a lot of this started. And then it spread out into stewardship of larger entities. And then it went into this sustainability stuff. And I'm kind of with Wayne, you know, we didn't talk about sustainability when I was a Girl Scout. We just did stuff and we took care of stuff and we, you know, were trustworthy and loyal and all those things. And so you've got this in your DNA. And I also think that if you begin to brand yourselves as social entrepreneurs, because you're creating a way for people to be both in nature and in cities, in community and in relationship. So you're beginning to set a way of journeying to something that's taking the campfire into the office or into the organization. And what John said last night also, you will not get there by being incremental. We don't have time for incremental stuff right now. My students, and I'll tell you about some of them at Presidio Graduate School, are there because they basically wake up every day and say, what can I do? And it's a privilege to teach people like that because they are bold, they are not incremental. And the other thing is, I think Scouting has that in its DNA. I think you are bold. And when Scouting was formed, it was bold. You have to re-embolden yourselves. And I'll talk a little bit about why I think sustainability is the strange attractor for that emboldenment. Because you have every solidness of standing on your deep DNA about this topic. And if there's anything that I can do for you today is to help you have hope. I mean, when I was with Sachi and we were doing the Walmart work, we don't show pictures of, polar bears dying. That just hurts the brain. That kind of stuff makes people not take action. We know that from positive psychology. You don't talk about fear because it makes you smaller. You talk about possibility and moving out. So the courage, the character, the ability to take what you already know. You don't need to look for best practices. You are the best practice. And you have to stand inside that. So what John asked me to do here today, and I come with a background in anthropology, so I don't dig in the dirt, but I'm interested in people and how to move people and cultures. Then I went into public health because that's where a lot of stuff was going on. And so the public health stuff, now we're having Ebola. This is like public health excitement, because we all get noticed and, somebody knows what to do. But public health is just system epidemiology. How do you take on large systems of change? How do you get people to buckle their seatbelts? How do you get people to tend their ostomy bags when they don't want to do creepy things? How do you get people to really change their behavior? So that's where I worked out with behavior change. And I became a psychologist because I was teaching in a medical school and you had to be some kind of doctor. Because if you weren't a doctor, you had no right to say anything. So psychologist was the thing that I did to understand human behavior. And it was very interesting to see what did people fear and so the bridge between anthropology and psychology was always very strong for me. And I've just been, actually Robert was asking me this morning, how did I end up in these kind of roles? I think because I always saw things that could be different. And you all have seen that too. That's why you're at this meeting. You're here with that kind of hope of we could do something with this sustainability stuff. It could be the new campfire for scouting. And right now, my play space is Presidio Graduate School. And I like to spread the innovation. John talked about this stuff because I like to make things that other people can use so I don't have to go there. So my students are amazing. And they do things like, I have a vegan who went to McDonald's last summer for her internship. Because if you can't go into big systems, you're going to be marginalized out on the edges, playing small. So find out how do you transform a large system. And McDonald's, having done some very interesting values work for McDonald's when I was at Sachi, McDonald's is doing things, what they have done to transform the beef industry. Now they're doing chicken. Because chicken, people are not going to stop eating this stuff. But we've got to change where it comes from and how it's handled. So to have my student who was saying, I can't go to McDonald's, I said, yes, you will go to McDonald's, and you will find out what they know how to do there. I have another student who's at Rayleigh's Supermarkets, who is like, she's got the headhunter's call, and she says, I'm never going to Rayleigh's. It's in, Sacramento. I have to move to Sacramento, leave the bubble of San Francisco. She now changed all the formulary for all the baking that goes on, got rid of trans fat, began at that kind of level. So my Presidian students are very interested in making changes, and they light me up every day. So we function in figuring out the model for leadership in the age of the unthinkable. Because the unthinkable is that this won't last. And the other thing is, the future is already here, it's just not equally distributed. It's already happening in Bangladesh. It's already happening in Florida when people are starting to deal with the planning for ocean rise. So it isn't that it's not here, we just don't want to see it or don't want to be reminded of it. And in some ways we come to the Greenbrier so we can think it's all green and lovely, but come to my neighborhood where people are sleeping on the streets and it is not perfect. It's like we drove through here and we saw coal miners, people who are out of work, sitting on the side of the streets in the little towns that we pass through in the van. So it isn't all, these places are kind of oases, but they're not the full world. So we're leading into, my challenge was to design leadership for people who have to get up every day and do something different. And it's not your dad's or your mom's idea of leadership. It is a different, more resilient and agile, and frankly, psychologically engaging. Because it's not going to be, as John said, you're not going to stand up here and click through the slides and people are going to change. And we tried that in public health. That didn't work. I had to end up writing comic books to explain to people, and actually they were true-to-life comic books, and they were steamy, and because people read them. They weren't reading our pamphlets. So you gotta read, and you gotta do it in the language that people are engaged with. So resilience, and the other thing is, a lot of our people, I'm interested in burnout and sustaining human beings. I worked a lot with physicians, and a burned out physician is a wasted talent. And so is a wasted Presidian. And people who actually are needing to show up for the long run. I was at lunch or the breakfast this morning, there you are. We were talking about being retired. I said, no, you're not retired. You just have punctuated your life with a semicolon. Because one of the things we do with our students is we ask them to do in orientation, we draw their lifeline till they're 80 or 85. This whole notion of retirement is ridiculous. It's a waste of talent. We just haven't figured out the social innovation of how to do that well. So as you invite elders to come into scouting, be aware that you're going to have a real interesting mix of people. So sustainability is the strange attractor. I've been camped out with Change people for a long time. It's all kinds of different campfires. But I think sustainability is the newest big tent. And people are gathering in different ways in that tent. And the anthropologists are coming, and the technologists are coming, and the food and ag people with all their foodie stuff are coming, and the social people are coming, and the culture people are coming. And so it's a big tent. So I don't care what you call it, just you guys know about tent. You know about encampment. You know how to call people together. And just like Burning Man, you know how to run a big thing where people will arrive. So your job is to build the interest, and they will come. But you've got to get out beyond your usual boundaries. You can't stay in your safe kind of little place because you have a big story. And you will be wasting yourselves if you don't say your big story. So it's cross-generational. There's a whole lot of elders out there wasting away in green pants on the golf course. If you could mobilize those people to come back and play with you and really offer them an elder role, to be with young people, they would love it. But I think you've got to rethink what your volunteer is and the role of a volunteer. And people worry that they don't know enough or that they're not digital enough or something. And basically, my aunt did this thing with Margaret Mead in the schools in Ann Arbor and brought old people and young people together, not around doing technical things, but around art. You could be having about camping, I don't care what it is. And the health of the elders got better. And so did the health of the young people, because we're missing that. So this cross-generational thing, wicked problems are not going to be solved with the same old stuff. Boy Scouts have been doing wicked problems for a long time. How do you set up these things? How do you do this? So rebrand yourselves as the wicked problem solvers. You have it in your DNA. My friend was head of sustainability for Mattel with Barbie. And there's nothing worse than being in that role and Greenpeace lands right on you and starts sniffing in your supply chain. And it was not a pleasant time to be Catherine for 2 years. She lived that kind of assault with Greenpeace. If you don't wake yourselves up, somebody else will. They're already knocking at your door. So your Greenpeace is out there if you don't take that kind of step in to yourselves. Right now, Presidio Graduate School is working with the National Hockey League. And because they're trying to green their stadiums and teach people about more people, 76% of the population follow sport, 23% follow science. You gotta go where the people are. You have to start seeking out strange campfires and going to places where you have never built your campfire. So my question to you guys is, who's gonna be your partners? Boy Scouts and who? Because you need to go beyond your sense of your history. And we'll talk more about grieving and necessary losses and being able to move yourself even when you don't know where you're going. Because that's okay. We all don't know where we're going, but we have to keep going and we have to move ourselves. So sustainability is your new strange attractor. It's your new campground. It's your new language. And you have every history and every integrity to stand in sustainability. So if you don't seize it, somebody else is going to. And you don't want it to be Coca-Cola selling happiness in their cans. You have something real to sell. So, get into your roots. Okay, this thing is going on. Have you ever heard of net impact? It's where 3,000 MBA students who are interested in sustainability hold their campfire. And they show up there. They come from all the places where sustainability is not being taught in business schools, and they come together. There are all kinds of campfires out there. And the other thing I'll tell you, the reason I do the campfire in my leadership class, because a lot of Presidians are scouts. They are scouts, and we talk about this. And they're Girl Scouts, and they're Boy Scouts, and they're campfire girls. They have that history in them, and they like to have it reminded them of where they began. The other thing is, Presidio has been kind of the little green business school that could. I'll just say, my one little commercial is, we've been going for 10 years. We started this school, we built every single course, whether it be accounting, finance, or operations, with sustainability baked in. So there wasn't a bolted on course, it was in everything. And so we started out that, and it took us 10 years to get accredited. And Lord, if I ever have to write one more of those WASC accreditation things and, those proving to your stuff, we are done with that. So the big sigh. Now, our job is to scale and trying to get our word out and get our 750 grads who are working in amazing roles. That's the other thing. So the worry is always, where will I get a job? Our people are not trained to get jobs. They are trained to find work and to be leaders. And so they are infiltrating McDonald's and Rayleigh's grocery stores and other places. So we are the little green business school that could. So we're ready to come out and, not be sitting in San Francisco. Actually, a number of our students fly in from other places. I know they burn carbon, it's terrible, but you sometimes have to create a campfire where others come for warmth and nurturance. So, for you guys, the first thing of the conversation, where is sustainability bubbling up in your life? I want you to spend 5 minutes at your tables. We're going to start with the table work because I'm kind of done with my talk. This is it. That was it. We just started. Now is going to be, I brought you my favorite things from my course. So I had 5 days to kind of scooch down and say, these are the little nuggets. So the first nugget is connect before content. You must connect to the people at your table before anything means anything. So if all you do with your Cub Scouts is connect them instead of teach at them, that's what they need. So at your table, this is a time when I want each one of you to spend 1 minute. No one has ever died from 1 minute of self-expression. But this table has a lot of people, and this table has 3 people. So you guys up here get more time to talk. So you are in your self-regulatory mode. I'm going to give you 6 minutes. So you guys divide the 6 minutes. You know how to do this. And what I want you to do is talk about where you see sustainability bubbling up. But I want you to be personal about it. What's the personal connection? Because that's the thing we learned at Walmart. It's not about the polar bears. It's not about something out there. What is your connection? What is your story? If you had to say 3 words, what would it be? So turn to your tables, and I'm going to time you for 6 minutes. Divide your time. Find out what lights everybody up here. What piece of sustainability do you bring to the campfire? What's your stick? Okay, go.
Where and when do you want the handouts?
Not yet.
Okay.
In a minute.
Okay. They're on the table back
Thank you.
there. I'm going to step out and make
Let's think. Yeah.
Do all the work I'm trying to do, still stay true to my relationships.
I want them in about after this exercise. You could pass them out now while they're talking and turn them over.
Okay.
But because we have, I don't know how many we have, but count out how many people. Just 4 for this table.
Yeah.
That work?
I hope I have enough for everybody, but I think I made sense.
I try and focus more on economics. I have 3 children under the age of 8. My son moved back. He says to me, Dad, it just makes me sick. I said, what makes you sick? He says, go ahead, we're all these people. Cars with these exhaust pipes. And I said, okay. I go, what makes you sick, huh? He says, yep. He goes, I think it's just disgusting what our generation is doing to this planet. And I felt like I was driving to the back of the car with my mother. And she smoked a pack of cigarettes a day. I was about 9. I was just on her. I didn't know I was on her, but I was on her saying, Mom, I know this is not good for you, and I know you think it is, but I promise you it's not the right thing to do. And then I just had this aha moment where I'm like, you know what? Sometimes it takes a child or something to life, at least that you still know and you don't know. That's where I was kind of
Thank you, Loretta. Actually, you could just put them in the center and just because if you give them to them, they'll pick them up.
Well,
They know how to hand them out. They really do. Yeah.
I'm Rob Swan. How do you do?
Hello, Rose.
You're
Cynthia.
doing absolutely
Oh, good.
fantastic
Oh,
stuff.
thank you. Thank you.
And are you staying the rest of the day? When
Yes,
are
I
you
am.
leaving?
Tonight.
What time are you going?
I'm driving at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock.
You'll miss
We
my
can
talk.
talk more. We could talk.
Let me just give you
I'll-
that.
No, I won't miss your talk. When is your talk?
This evening at dinner.
No, I
so
will be there.
Are you sure?
I will be there. No, no, no.
Because
no.
I'm going to track you down. You carry on, but
Okay.
you are fantastic.
Thank you.
Well
Thank you.
done.
Thank you. One of my students is in my program because of Antarctica.
Peter Badger.
Yes. You
He's
know
my
Peter.
man.
You know Peter
He
Badger.
came with me.
Oh. That, now I understand.
Right.
I thought Peter Badger has to meet you. Okay, good. Have you guys done your stuff?
We have.
But you know what? You could deepen.
Yes.
You see, what's interesting is you got the thin story.
Okay.
Go to the next level. You got 2 more minutes.
Okay,
So
wonderful.
see where you can take. I know coffee is beckoning, but you guys have 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. So those of you who think you've finished, go deeper. Find out more. Okay, you've got another 1 minute to kind of finish up.
We have the capability for us to.
Right after Monday.
Give me a time check. What time is it now? How long?
9:22.
And how long do I go for?
You go till 10:15.
Oy, okay. Alrighty, let's come back together. Is my mic on? Great. Let's come back together. I don't want to stop you. I don't want to stop you, but I want to pause you. Because these are the conversations that you can keep having. This is why you came to this meeting, to discover each other's stories and each other's truth. One of the things I thought of when I was listening to people, and the stories were amazing. They were about your kids and the global view, and how you monetize things, and how you're trying to find a way to navigate this, and your children and your grandparents. So the room is rich with stories. See, you guys, every other group is greenwashing compared to what you have here. And so I'm amazed that you are not seizing kind of what you've got here in terms of people's connection to sustainability. You may not have the words, but you've got the connection. So what I want to do right now is help you deepen that connection. And what I'm going to do today, and it's a long list, but we're going to go really fast because you're smart. I'm going to help you identify stages of organizational readiness so you can figure out who you should be partnering with and who's going to pull you in the next level in terms of Boy Scouts as an organization. Then we're going to create a roadmap for change. I'm going to teach you very quickly how to sketch one and talk about it, because most people always have, we used to tell stories in the dirt and draw pictures. That's what you're going to be able to do. You don't need any fancy PowerPoints. You don't need any overheads. You already do this around your campfires. And we're going to understand the human side of change. How do you help people go beyond their fear and loss of everything they've known how to do, whether it's your combustion engine. I mean, we are headed into a lot of grieving of things that we thought were our entitlement, our big house, as you were talking about, those huge houses with $10 million worth of materials in them. All kinds of things are going to be shedding. Then we're going to break, and other people are going to work for a while, and when we come back together this afternoon, I'm going to talk about reducing threat and releasing innovation, first in yourselves and then in the groups you work with. And then we're going to borrow a piece from Walmart. I brought you the piece that I worked on with the personal sustainability practice. And I think you've already done this, but I want you to see how we did it at Walmart with 1.2 million people, regular people who are cashiers at Walmart, and probably who have sons that should be in scouting. So how to connect to those folks, okay? So that's what we're going to do here today. We've already started, and basically we are talking through some of the things that I had to do in my little book, because it's like, how do you first sense your own connection? You have to start with this, not some kind of matrix in your mind or model, but what is your connection to sustainability? How do you find out what other people are doing and borrow and steal and take and regenerate what others are doing? How do you pull it together in some way that you make sense in your group? Because your group is different, and you have to have the flexibility in your organization to have that loose, tight stuff. You have to figure out what is important and core and what you can let go of. Because that's your struggle right now in terms of keeping too much tightness and not understanding your core and mixing up what's your core with other things. And then you've got to steer. You've got to take on a couple things and go. You've got to take some flagship elements. And then you have to soar and see what you've done, and then you have to go again. So when I was trying to teach about leadership, You have to figure out how to go through the cycle over and over again, because that's what we're going to have to do. So that's just my, and the other thing at the end, if you want to, I gave you my website because if you want to have a download of my little book, it's actually a UK book, and they charge way too much money for it, like pounds and pounds of dollars. And so I kind of snuck off and put at least the first 2 chapters on my website so you can go and download them, but don't tell them. But maybe they're over in Europe and they won't hear me do this. So organizational readiness. How do you know where organization, this is a model we use with our students, because basically sustainability is a journey along a big continuum. And you will go everywhere from we are not even aware. I bumped into somebody, they will remain nameless, who works for a very fancy high-end radio system. And I said, what are you doing at sustainability? He said, I don't know. I go, that is not an answer. You know, it's like, but luxury brands get to escape some of that for a while until Greenpeace comes knocking at your door or somebody else comes knocking at your door. So we're almost sort of maybe hopefully done with the unawareness phase. And I gave you a handout here, so some of you who would like to learn by scribbling and writing, so you don't have to like take this home. I pulled out some things in handout form, just so you could have little bits and pieces. Then we have organizations that are beginning, and they begin because somebody, oftentimes an executive, begins to have some idea, or they go off to some conference and everybody else has a CSR report. Why don't we have a CSR report? So it's like me too, me too. And then they begin, the other way that they start with organizations around sustainability is, oh, there's regulations, and we get slammed because you have no right to operate. It's like what is happening to Coca-Cola in India, who's taking the villagers everybody's water. They are having a big storm happening. You can't just put your bottling plant anywhere you want to and drain the aquifer anymore. So that's between Greenpeace and compliance. Now, the bandwagon and where a lot of people are camped is around efficiency. Kind of like it's smart, you save money. Turning off water gets us better bottom line. One of my favorite ones was the IBM guy who he actually, I don't know how he ever did this, he got his electric bill and he blew it up at Kinko's until it was like this big. And he stuck it on the front of the cafeteria and made everybody like walk into the cafeteria and look at the electric bill. He says, this is what I have to look at every month. He says, what should we do about this? So the cost-saving stuff is, frankly, in Presidio language, low-hanging fruit. But if you were the Greenbrier, you could do some things here. And whether it be replacing the lights in your parking garages, there's a lot of things that are being done. But that's the easy conversation. Because it's easy to change stuff, and it's easy to swap out. You don't need a lot of behavior involved in that. You can the operations people can do stuff. It's the opt-in or the opt-out. You stop putting the little bars of soap in the hotel. You put those things on the wall where the liquid soap comes out because you don't have that wasted stuff. You don't see that in Europe. You don't see that. It's like you come here, you go, whoa, they got real bars of soap. So efficiency is where most organizations start because that's the easy conversation. Everybody wants to save money. Everybody wants to save the planet, stop trash, recycle. All those things are easy. So most of where I would say sustainability in terms of readiness is around the efficiency stuff. When you get into the next 2 circles is where you as scouting can propel this conversation. Because when you get into the strategic conversation, when you say, what are you doing with sustainability that engages your employees? It's kind of what you I think as I heard, it's like, it's not about the cost of the bins, it's the conversation about the bins and what that means. Or it's your kid in the back of the car talking about the tailpipes of the other cars. It's like, what is the meta message? It's where organizations start to jump ahead of the curve, not because they're being dragged, but they're moving. And they begin to drag their fields with them. One of our students, her big thing was getting the waste out of the OR, out of the operating room, for 3 hospitals in Fairfield, California. That began, see, because once you get into efficiency, then drives the conversation about human waste. Not like bathroom stuff, but I'm talking human waste in terms of the fighting and the conflict that happens in the emergency room. So you start, what is the loss, the process loss, the cost of innovation escaped, or people that you didn't know how to engage in a conversation and they walked out on you and left you with a bigger problem. So once you get into strategy, and this is where, when I was working with Saatchi and Saatchi, they were like, actually I worked with Adam Moorbach, who almost got pillared on the cover of, what was it? Some magazine. What magazine? I can see the cover. Anyway, I think it was Fast Company, where it had Adam, was it Fast Company?
Boys Life.
Yeah, well, Boys Life, green, like it was green, yes. But Adam Moorbach was the youngest president of the Sierra Club. He was 23 when he got that role. He then started a film company and started making videos. And then they tapped him on the shoulder and said, why don't, he got a call from Walmart. And he's like this green guy and this, crusader activist. And Walmart said, we're going to go zero waste. Can you come help us with 1.2 million people and help our employees understand how they can be part of that solution? Because you cannot go zero waste unless you engage people. People got to want to go back on the dock and break down the boxes. But then what happened is the people in the stores decided they didn't want to sell any old, styrofoam ice chests anymore. They started to get uppity. And they started to kind of push back. It was brilliant. Walmart had no idea what empowerment they were releasing. Then it became strategic for Walmart to do that, not because they wanted to be nice, but because they were taking on the green pieces for many other things, and they needed to have a new story. But what happened to that is they ended up in the middle of something that was not only strategic, but it was leadership. When they made the declaration to go zero waste in 10 years, Lee Scott had no idea how they were going to do that. But see, what transformed Lee is he was taken down the Amazon by Greenpeace to look at the soy fields that the deforestation was happening. And he got that, oh my gosh, moment. And what you have to do is you either look for, and what we were talking about last night about Ray Anderson. Ray Anderson had his oh my gosh moment. So a lot of the people who get into this next level of leadership, and it's Wayne, I think Wayne is getting to have that oh my gosh moment, because you got it with your kids. You had that oh gosh moment, because that's when you step into leadership. That's when you become a game changer. You could either start that way like Patagonia, or you can drag kicking and screaming the Walmarts of the world. And then you begin to push the supply chain, and you tell Procter & Gamble, we will not anymore have that big fat, Tide thing on our shelves. We're going to reduce your shelf space. So you have to reduce your footprint. We're not going to haul your water-laden product. We're going to add water when they get there. Push, push, push the supply chain. So those things require a lot more engagement. And taking the organization, what we did at Saatchi was kind of take people who, got happy with efficiency into the strategic, into the leadership. That's the real transformation. That's the stuff. So when you are thinking about scouting, a lot of the stuff that you're doing right now is kind of happy efficiency, I must say. And that's good. Let's do zero waste. Let's recycle all this. I challenge you to think of what is the strategic play. And then if you really want to get bold, what's the leadership play? What's the game-changing play? What can you do with your camps and your DNA that would be really different? because you're global and you have half of the world are boys. And so it's like, come on, you have something not very few other organizations have. So when you look at readiness, be careful of whether you're going to kind of play in the lower part of the curve, or what would it take you to have those conversations. So I left you kind of the pieces. This is brand positioning, supply chain leadership, core business transformation, product innovation, game changer. That's what a leadership organization does. So do your green stuff, get all your, trash campaigns and all that. Challenge your scouts to do the next level up. Because that's what we're doing right now with teachers in California who are teaching these amazing environmental education programs, but now they need leadership help to take them to change the schools. Because you can change inside your classroom, you're safe. But when you start to look at the cafeteria and say, why are we feeding people this? Those are the kinds of questions at the next level. So this is my kind of little take-home piece for you to co-torment each other with. And I also want you to know that sustainability is only this bolt-on thing until it becomes infused in everything else. It's just like diversity. Remember when we had diversity officers? Now we don't have diversity officers because we worked on that. Now we have sustainability officers. They're going to go away too. So don't aspire to be the chief sustainability officer. Sorry, John, but what happens is John is like the person who like stirs the pot. And so our people are in all kinds of roles. There's all kinds of secret doors you can go through. So don't think you have to have green in your job title to be in sustainability. That's the other thing, is our people are not necessarily called green. So making maps. The map is not the territory. Boy, you know that from scouting. They give you those like GPS things, and then you get out there and it is not like that. You try to drive and they ripped up the road. Or you thought the trail was this way, but they've mushed it. And so leaders understand that you don't know where you're going. There is no big secret book of leadership. People say, tell me what to do. I work with executives. It's like, there is no secret leadership book. We're all making it up. But we are at least leaning forward into the making it up. And when we fall, we get back up again. Leaders fall. They stumble and they get up. It's how you get up. It's not that you never fell. So that's the big thing about the map. But the map does several things. Just as you have, used maps in all kinds of scouting activities, the map gives you courage to begin. That GPS thing says, I have to drive to Dulles tonight. I have not been there. I'm going to get my GPS out. I know that I'm going that direction, and it gives me the courage to begin with my rental car in the dark. So a map gives you courage, and a map also gives you aspiration. See, you have to say what your destination is. When Lee Scott said zero waste, he had no idea what it would take to do zero waste. He just knew he had to go there. So for you all, do not be afraid of some big, hairy, audacious thing. Just allow yourself to begin to make the map. Because leaders make maps. They don't have to know where they're going. Because basically we are animals of orientation. When I was in Australia, the Aborigines have those amazing paintings. I have several of them. They're all about where do you find the widgety grubs and where do you find the next water hole. They're all about where is safety, how far can I go until the next thing happens. So what leaders do is they have a big audacious trajectory, but they say, let's go here. And then let's go here. See, the thing with education, no one would ever go to school if you told you how long it would take. So we break it into courses and semesters and little assignments. So we partialize it, but we are taking you somewhere. So the people don't begin the journey by hearing about they like the big thing, but they need to know what to do now. So there's I call this the horse blanket. I come from Arizona. People say, how do you talk about change, Cynthia? Well, I talk about it on one page. Basically, what I found was that people need some kind of map. And this is just my representation of it. You're going to draw your own map. You don't have to draw it like this at all. It just has to look like your map. And this is that thing where you do it in the dirt and you tell the story. And you said, kids, we are going up to the top of hum, and we're going to get there. That's what you're doing already. You are so wired to this stuff. One of the things, though, I found in many of the corporate things is they really want to go from here to there, but they don't want to do any history. They don't want to talk about, when we started, and they don't want to talk about the founders, because that's old stuff. I said, if you do not appreciate where you came from, you've lost your legacy. And what happens is everybody wants to have a big, exciting vision. The visions deepened the more we took time to go back and resurrect our history, whether it be Schwab or AT&T. Go back to your founding principles. You've got them. You don't have to be like these Silicon Valley companies of making stuff up and sticking things on the wall that they have no idea where it came from. You have real history. Evoke that and use it. So I always say, start with telling your story, where you came from, and look out and find out who's out there on the edge. Who's your Greenpeace? Why are people leaving scouting? What are their stories? What is going on out there? Don't be afraid. Go embrace it and find out. Because the sooner you find out, the sooner you get to be smarter. But hiding from it will not help you. And so you go out and find out what's going on. Then you dream your audacious thing. And then you layer in 3 things. You layer in leadership to help you keep making the map. And you layer capability development, which is what Diane is doing and what all this change stuff. We can get smarter and we're learning things. We don't have to go stupid. Neuroscience, all this stuff can help us. And 3 or 4 things. The danger that organizations make is they have 27 things. You will not make it with 27 things. First of all, the body can remember 5 if you're lucky. 1 hand. 27 strategic initiatives doesn't work. You got to go something simple. I like 4, frankly, because 4 is like really memorable. So what is, if you did the 4 whats, would move you to where you want to go? So what I want you to do right now is I'm going to try something. You have this great piece of paper here, and I want you to draw a picture. I'm going to give you 1 minute because this is time. More time is not going to be better for you. Draw a picture of where scouting is going. I'm going to take you back. Oops. What's your history? A couple words or a picture. What's your history? What are the forces? Where are you now? Where are you going? And if you had your way, what 4 things would this organization be doing? I'm just making you into a strategic planning group right now. Just go. 1 minute. We don't have time. This is not about art. This is not about art. My favorite one is a guy who draws a big diamond. And he can talk strategy to that one piece. It is not about art, but it's about being fast, and it's about just some way of depicting the journey. Because the other thing is you already know. You just don't all know together. This is no talking. You cannot borrow anybody else's. This is the examination. You have 15 more seconds. Because this is the story you tell when you bump into somebody at the grocery store. What is happening with sustainability in Scouting? You have 30 seconds to tell people. So let's just put you in twos, whatever way that breaks up at your table. You guys, you guys, you guys, two, two. You're going to have to, you just have to tag on, okay? So what I want you to do for 30 seconds each is I want you to talk about your picture, okay? We could do this for a long time, but I'm just giving you a taste. Ready? 30 seconds, and then you're going to switch, and let's do a minute. Okay, I'll do a minute. Too much, too much. It's not, the coffee is still working. Okay, 1 minute, but you must talk to another person for 1 minute about your picture. Go. It is not about art. It is not about art. It is not about art. It's okay, then make it up. Make it up because...
No, but he's a chemical company, and I'm European.
I know. So?
Okay.
Hang in. Yeah. I work with Monsanto. I work with McDonald's. You have to.
What I need, help me make it. Help me.
No, tell me your vision.
Well,
Stay with where do you think you are now, and where do you want to go?
well, first of all, I'm from the European Council. So
Okay.
I know that we want to create youngsters as infiltrators for change
Okay.
for the future, but also to give them the tools so that they understand everything you say is what we say there. more or
Okay.
less. We're
Okay.
already there. And
So that's your view of change, is there's a journey. What's
there's
your
a journey.
view? What's your journey? Switch. Switch to the other person. Switch. Talk to the other person. Now, somewhere I have my notes. I have left my notes somewhere. Does anybody know where my notes are? Alrighty. I'm going to ask you to pause again. This is not about drawing. This is not about art. This is about beginning to emerge your natural map maker in yourself. Because all of you are working on your own personal maps. This is just the group or the organization writ large. So when I did this with IBM, we had people put their maps up of what the journey was and begin to see similarities, differences, ways that they were talking about the same thing. So I'm doing this as a teeny tiny exercise, hoping that you will go back to your council and ask them, what is our journey to sustainability here? Let them draw the map. Let them tell you what they see. There is no, big map built, but it's the ones we're all building. So I'm going to stop us with this because I want to go to the next piece. I'm not going to do anything with this. This is like an eye chart, but I gave it to you in your handout because I got to work with Deloitte for 2 years to make their one-page change management methodology that would work in the schools in South Africa and install SAP in Pittsburgh. So if I have only one page to say what to do, and the innovations that we had, because we had a global design team, were in the middle. Because they all said, start with the people at the top and make them, get smart. And then change all the processes. What they were forgetting was to have the people, to involve the people very early on and charter a change team. See, I think that's what this group is. You are the change team. You have followed the law of 2 feet. You have showed up here. And if you've come more than once, you really belong here because you keep coming back. So you are the change team to help the organization understand where it's going. So this is just a guide for you, and it's like I wrote the whole book on this, but this is the little teeny take-home piece. And there's more on this if you want it. How much longer do I have in this part? 15 minutes. Ooh. Okay. Alrighty, let's roll in. This is the part about understanding the person. And what I'm going to do is I'll go up to a point, and then when we have our break, we'll pause and we'll do another piece of this. So we'll get you started. We can't do the whole thing in 15 minutes. But what we can do is understand a little more about what happens to people. And the way we're going to do that is to have you all think about a change that you've been part of. Now, there will be no California sharing. You will not talk to anybody else about the one that you think about. So it can actually be a real one. And I encourage you to think of something that has a little more grist. You know, this exercise is very dicey with really young people because they haven't like been through enough rippers, so they don't have a lot of things, but maybe you have. So choose something that has some substantial impact. A personal change or an organizational change. Something where you have been changed upon. And I'm going to ask you some questions. And you've got a little worksheet there. I actually brought you a little page if you want. Some people like to write in a format. Some people like to write on their piece of paper. Some people can't even turn the page. Just turn it to that change curve worksheet. Let me ask you the questions. And I started doing this when I started working with AT&T a long time ago because people said, we don't know anything about change. I says, yes, you do. You've all been living. So let's go back to a change, and I'm going to ask you some questions. And there will be no sharing, so you can write whatever you want and think whatever you want. It'll probably take 7 minutes to get through this, maybe 5. So what I'd like you to do is, with that change in mind, I'd like you to go back and imagine that you kept some kind of diary, Facebook page, somewhere where you recorded what was happening to you. And this could be a change that happened a long time ago, or it could be a current change. All I want you to do is identify what were the thoughts, the feelings, and the actions that you were doing before the change happened. Just make some notes. Thoughts, feelings, actions. If we take a video of you, what would you be doing? What would you be thinking? I just make some sketchy notes. I don't want to constrain you. The box is little, but you may have other things you want to write, so it's not really about the size of box. What was it like to be you before the change happened? Because some of you are actually thinking about a change that you initiated, and some of you are thinking about a change that got you. And now let's fast forward a little bit. And the change is not just out there, it is happening. It's affecting you. It's disrupting you. It's releasing you. What is happening to you now? Thoughts, feelings, actions in that second phase of change. What's it like to be you? Alrighty, now move yourself forward, and either this is remembering, or if you're to the point, maybe you're imagining what it's going to be like when you're 51% of the way through this change. What's it going to be like for you? Or what was it like for you? What did you start thinking, feeling, experiencing, behaving when you got to that point? It's very arbitrary, 51%. That just means more than halfway, whatever that is on your map. And now let's fast forward to where the change is actually finished, whatever you call finished. Maybe it's just a punctuation and you just got to a resting place, or maybe something really different has emerged. What's it like to be at the end of this change? What are your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions? Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to make the model from your experience, okay? Because in the very beginning, people said, well, what did people do? And I said, I don't know what people do. Let's ask them what they do. And then let's make a model on top of that. Let me ask one question. And you raise your hands, and you will not have to reveal much. How many of you were thinking about a change that you initiated, that you started? Let's just see, show of hands. And let's see the change, and that means the rest of you were having a change that you didn't start and you just got you, okay? Because the difference in that's the self-efficacy question. It's like when you initiate something, it's a different experience than when it comes at you. So this is very important to understand with leadership, because leadership experiences these things very differently than the people being changed on. Okay, so there's that disconnect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run up here to the stage, and I'm going to do some flip charty things, because what we're going to do is we're going to harvest up your experience. This is wild to be so far up here. Okay, so I don't want you to tell me what the change was. Actually, I would have it down there, but I am going to go down here. It's too weird. So I'm demonstrating drawing in the sand. What I'd like you to do is tell me some words, and I'm just going to face the flip chart, and you just call them out. Thoughts, feelings, or actions during that part before the change happened. What are some of the words that were your thoughts, feelings, or actions? Waste of time. What else? Bored. Bored, scared, frustrated. Bored, hang on, scared. What else? Huh? Doubt. Pushback. What else? Who? Robots? Overwhelmed. I'm only going to have the ones that I can understand. Okay. Risk. You were feeling risk. And what else? Unhappiness. What are the behaviors? These are all kind of feelings. Any behavior? Huh? Seeking. What else? Okay. Denial. I just, not me. Okay. Give me some words that happened to you in terms of thoughts, feelings, and actions In the second phase, this is when the change is becoming real, when it's really settling in. Words. Hope and disappointment. Confusion, thank you. Huh? Frustration, Betrayal, Okay. Behaviors. Impatient and energy, Anything else? Second guessing. Okay. One more? Unenthusiastic. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Unenthusiastic compliance. Smiling. Okay, compliance, thank you. How about when you got to the 51% point? Now, what's interesting is a number of people, you will know when it begins to shift, when things change for you. What were the thoughts, feelings, and actions that you experienced on this other side? Pride and nervous. What else? Relief and accomplishment. Relief, accomplishment. No going back. What else? I missed one. Certainty is coming back. Excitement. Revelation. Okay. Okay. How about at the end? What's it like to be at the end of this change process? Ownership and, oh, thank God, was that one? Yes, oh my God, ownership. Thank God, what else? Huh? What, I missed it. Satisfaction, I missed some. Okay, and determination. Amazement, yeah. And what else? Huh? There was one. Bolder? Older, yeah. If you're lucky. If you're lucky. Okay, one more. Confidence, okay. Okay, and what next? Okay. So trying to find oops, why did that go that way? Oops, hang on. What I'm trying to do is give you a sense of what it's like to ask large groups of people to go through their own change experience. Because we are so unique, everybody does it their own way. But when you're trying to move a whole bunch of people, a pattern or a map tends to help. So after asking people, kind of, is this the Kubler-Ross death and dying curve? No, because when you're working with AT&T, they don't want to hear about death and dying. They want to hear about something else. But you are closing all their plants in Lawton, Oklahoma. And for the people who are having that experience, they are feeling this way. Or for the people who are bored and can't wait for something to happen, they are getting ready to move. So what I began to do, and I wrote this messy on purpose because it's really not about the words. It's about the map of the experience. And what I kind of did was figure out what's happening and what is the movement curve and how can we help people not feel lost and confused and keep moving. So in the first phase, that's the phase of kind of where people talk a lot about the change as an it. The downsizing, the reorganization, the new whatever. It has these names that are about it out there. And if you're talking personally, it's the divorce, or it's the, whatever you're doing, the operation. So it's very much an it. And what people normally do is they talk about the past and how good it was, which is different than talking about your history. This is kind of reminiscing and wishing it was good and we were so wonderful then and, whatever. And for some people, for those of you who started the change, you were frankly feeling bored and it's a waste of my time and I just want to move something. So this phase that we ended up calling denying, not denial, because denying implies movement. You are denying, but tomorrow you can be in the next stage. So if you are in denial, it's more like a diagnosis, and it freezes people. So it may be bad for language, but it's better for talk and movement. So denying is normal and important. If you go into the emergency room and you're really hurt, you are fainted yourself, because if you faint yourself, you won't bleed out so fast. So we have deep, deep denial is very good for us. It's very good if you are in a crisis situation, but it does not work if you live here and stay here and camp here. So the denying has a usefulness only if you use it to move from it down to when it got personal. This is the me part. Oh, you mean I have to do something? I got to work with the judges getting computerized in California. Oh, so much coffee was spilled on the terminals because they really didn't like it, and they wanted it to go away, and they hated it. Because the other part of change is, even if you're bored and you want something to move, this is where you begin to be disrupted. My anthropology professor, when I was in college, made us change people's maze ways. So we said, what the hell is a maze way? But basically, I went and asked people to use a different shower and a different toilet in the dorm bathroom. You think we are not territorial? People get real attached to very basic patterns, because what happens is that pattern is you don't have to think about that. You can save your prefrontal cortex for more fun things. But if you make people do something different, and actually we were on our way to India, he made us wear dresses in 1970. Oh, we were really upset. We were not going to wear those dresses. But we were trying to get ready to go to India and not wear pants. So he made us get discomforted. So this is where you experience your discomfort. And for some of you, it's like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden, everything I was certain about is not working. Everything I thought were my patterns don't work. It's what Apple upgrades you all the time and nothing works. It's like, that's why we get so disrupted, because it is breaking our maze ways. So a very normal response is resisting. And I say that in a very positive way, because if you cannot contain the loyal resistors in your organization, what happens is they will leave you and take their smart ideas somewhere else. So loyal resistors are the people saying, but I thought you forgot this, or this was important, or they are not pleasant to have, but you want to have them in your process rather than outside your process. That's when Greenpeace and Mattel started to work on something, because the resisting is normal and predictable, and this is where the grieving and the healing takes place. From a medical point of view, when you have an incision and it starts to itch, you know you're healing. If you don't have itching, not good. You need that kind of pushback. You need that kind of experience of the loss of comfort is predictable. Over here, you begin to see the future. And the future begins to show up in a very messy kind of way. Usually we called it exploring, but it's really very chaotic, because things start to bubble up. And exploring is where you begin to see something else that's new. You get excited, you begin to have momentum again. With people at AT&T, they said, I could drive into the parking lot without bursting into tears. That's a big deal. Or I started to sleep at night again. Or I stopped sleeping all the time. Or I stopped eating everything. Or I stopped, whatever, because this shift is actually very physiological. So once you know when you've kind of cleared it, you'll know where you are in the curve. And up here is when you begin to, oh my gosh, satisfaction, things are amazing, and what's next? So the curve goes like this, but it also goes over here, and it goes over here, and it goes over here, because it doesn't stop. This is just a snapshot picture. Most people have about 6 of these going on in their life at any one time. That's why you feel kind of like discombobulated, because one change is in one phase and the other one is in another phase, and then your kids are going through something and you're trying to keep up with everything. So do not feel bad that you are kind of in the midst of this, because our changes are happening faster and faster and faster. So the disconnect, and I'm about to finish this little part. My basic thing here is you are not lost wherever you are. And most leaders do not want to have anything to do with this part. They want people to, what we call the Tarzan swing, we want people to say, oh, this is the happy people, everything is fine. Well, what happens to Tarzan is they hit the wall over here and come sliding down. And this is where you have the disconnect between the seniors, the senior leadership, and the rest of the organization, because they often go through this curve way before, because they're on all those strategic planning retreats, and they get time to adjust, and they are in charge. Getting the end of it feels very different. And they often say, what's the matter with you all? Can't you just get over it? Why are the people still so upset? Because their patterns are changing. If you want to make people really crazy, change the bathrooms, the cafeteria, and the parking lot, and install SAP at the same time. And you go, what is the matter with people? Well, I can tell you what the matter with people is. You've discombobulated them. And you haven't given them enough time to grieve and say goodbye to what they had. So I want to pause us here for this and come back to this. We will start at this point. We'll take off from here when we come back to this session this afternoon. So what I'm trying to do is kind of give you some pieces to start you percolating. On purpose, you'll come back to the same tables because we want you to be in mixture again. And if you really want to be wild, you can steal people, but you must have a mixture of people. You must have a mixture of age, stage, perspective, experience at your table. Okay, outside, inside, whatever, because we've designed you as microcosms. Okay, so it's time for break?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.